I thank you, everyone, for coming to our webinar for the month end. Very much appreciate your being here. And we have a new person to do the invocation for us, a woman who is very active in our program, Miss Anita Rhodes.
Thank you. Everyone, if you bow your heads for a moment. Heavenly Father, we come before you now. We come before your throne of grace and mercy to obtain both of those in our time of need. Lord, we're here to accomplish your will, to teach the children, to protect our children. So we ask that you pour your spirit upon this meeting, that you anoint the speakers. Fill us all with your wisdom, your grace, anoint our minds, and to strengthen our bodies so that we can go forward to carry this task through to completion. Father, I ask that you raise up more workers to come alongside of us. We ask also, Father, that you bring to these ranks whistleblowers to give us the ammunition that we need to fight the opposition, and that you be with us and grant us victory. Lord, we ask this in the name of your Son, Jesus Christ. Amen.
Amen.
Thank you very much, Anita. Please join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. Ready? Begin. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. Sometimes people ask, why do we start this way? Well, it's a very long tradition in America. If you remember our Declaration of Independence and the final words, with a firm reliance on divine providence, we pledge our lives, our property, and our sacred honor. And we are engaged in that same kind of mission as those people did back in 1776. We're seeking to regain some of the freedoms that we have lost and some of the protections that we have lost. Another question is why do you begin with a prayer? Well, the other tradition is to be an American and get your priorities right. It's God before country and country before family, because if you can't get right with God, you can't get your country right. And if you can't get your country right, you can't get your right with your family. And with those thoughts, I would like to introduce our chairman of the board, our president, Michael Alexander.
Hey, Steve, thanks for the gracious introduction. Thank you, everybody out there, for joining us on a Sunday afternoon. The fact that you're here underscores how important you think it is, and I know how important people think this is throughout the state of California. Many of you may be joining us for the first time here. I'm happy to report to you that our bill is in the very final stages of drafting. When I say the bill, we refer to it loosely as a bill. It will be a statewide initiative that will go on the November 2022 ballot. We've had an incredibly hardworking drafting team internally that has included Stephen, Dr. Dale Broom, Andrew Coe, myself, Doug Hauser, so many other people who are too numerous to mention here, who have weighed in with their thoughts, insights, and recommendations. These recommendations have come from literally dozens of sources throughout the state who have looked at this project of school choice and given us the benefit of their ideas, but particularly their experience. And as a result, we have developed here a very simple bill, the 4 points as we call it. The Education Freedom Act here will do 4 things. Number 1, it will create an education savings account for each and every K through 12 child who wants one. It's an opt-in system. Number 2, if that child chooses to opt in, he will receive his percentage share of what is known as Prop 98 funding in California. That's the basic funding mechanism that we have for funding education in California. And that average per pupil expenditure right now is almost $14,000. Now, that $14,000, number three, the parents, not the politicians, will be able to direct it to a participating school. And that participating school can be a charter school, a private school, and yes, even a religious, a parochial school. And number four, anything left over can be saved and used for college, vocational training, or other approved education expenses. This, like public education in general, is provided to each and every student in California who wants to participate, regardless of race, regardless of economic status, regardless of party, regardless of ethnicity, regardless of any of the other infinite number of things that the left tries to divide us in arriving at our educational arrangements. That is a very powerful bill that we have, and it has achieved incredible reception throughout the state. Now, I want everybody to kind of listen up careful, because here's the program, here's where we're going. Okay. This bill will be submitted to the Attorney General of the state of California for what is known as title and summary. That's a formal legal process that you go through when you're qualifying an initiative. When we get that information back here in 45 to 60 days after we submit it, we will then be gathering signatures on what is known as the petition with a capital P. That is the formal initiative petition. And from approximately September 15th, and for the next 180 days, it'll actually be less by the time you get it printed and submitted. But for the next almost 6 months, we will be gathering 1 million, ladies and gentlemen, qualified signatures. And to do that, we're going to have to raise and gather almost 1.5 million gross signatures to make sure that they can play around with the signatures. And play around they will. We're going up against very, very formidable forces here who do not want you to have the freedom to educate your children, nor others to educate theirs. Doing this, ladies and gentlemen, is a responsibility that we share together. I can assure you that you're going to get no help from the legislature. They want to keep it this way. You'll get no help from the public employee unions who want to maintain this monopoly over $100 billion per year in the minds and hearts of our youth. They're going to do everything they can to prevent it. And that's why each of us has to do what we can to make this happen. Now, here's what I want you to do. Here's the easy way to do it. We are going to have a couple of kickoff events. One, back to school week. That's where you call our operation and we get you connected out in front of an existing school, public, private, charter, I don't care what. Just get out there in front of that school, start collecting signatures. We'll give you the materials that you need. We'll train you. We'll show you what to do. And then our next signature event, no pun intended, is Super Sunday. And Super Sunday weekend here is October 2nd and 3rd. Mark it on your calendar. By the way, Anne-Marie, is Super Sunday up there on our calendar? If not, put a big old runner up there, Super Sunday. I've only got one question for each and every one of you out there. Where are you going to be on Saturday and Sunday, October 2nd and 3rd, Super Sunday weekend? The places of faith, our faith communities here in California, whether they're evangelical, Protestant, Jewish, Catholic, every mainline religion, these places, these communities are on fire over what's going on in the public schools and what's not going on in the public school, called education, real education. Those communities of faith will generate all the signatures that you need. And if you go out there, if you have a pastor, just let that pastor know that you're going to be on the sidewalk on Super Sunday, gathering signatures from your fellow congregants, parishioners, temple members, whatever. Just let him know that, or her, in some cases, where you're going to be. I didn't say ask permission. You can be on the sidewalks in front of any place in our society, in our state here, gathering signatures. The reason you go to the pastor or the rabbi, whoever it might be that heads up the mosque, you just tell them what you're going to do, and hopefully they'll help support you because this is in their interest. Hopefully they will be able to permit you to have access to their churches. There are always other places beside the front of the church where it's you'll want to gather signatures. We have very experienced crews to show you how to do that. Each and every one of these parishes should ultimately generate 1,000 signatures. Now, why? If you take, let's just take the average school, let's just take a Catholic school or a healthy private school that has 300 children in it. Well, those 300, let's assume 3 children per family. Now you've got 100 families. Well, those families usually have 2 parents. So now you got 200 adults, 200 potential votes, 200 potential signatures in a parish. Now add to that 200 grandparents. Yep, on the mother's side, 200 parents on the father's side. Now you've got 600 potential votes. That's the power of the school, and that's without counting anybody else that you might run into. And now, if there's a church that's affiliated with that school, you go on over there, and so there's another 2,000, 3,000, 4,000 signatures available for that school. So when people tell me, Mike, you know, you're doing a great job, Steve, you guys, man, you're fantastic. All of you over there at headquarters doing a great job. We're really supporting you. Well, thank you. But what I really need to know is, where are you going to be on Super Sunday? That's easy, because right now we're going to have that bill back, that petition back. We're going to be on the clock on September 15th, which means that we're on the clock right now. So you can't sign up too soon. You can't volunteer too soon. You can't call us too soon. Send me an email, Mike at California School Choice. Tell me where you're going to be on Super Sunday weekend. It's the most important single thing that you can do. Now, if you'd rather be in front of a Ralph's or in front of a fire hydrant, that's okay too. You just tell me where you're going to be, because when we put all these events up on the web, and our web mistress up there, Anne-Marie Simoneau, will put up those calendar entries for you. And that, ladies and gentlemen, is going to scare the hell out of the people who have schemes on your children. So let's take back our children. Let's take back their hearts, their minds, and their souls, and fix what's wrong in our country. That's up to you. You can't outsource this. You can't delegate it. This is on you, because we are still the United States of America. The citizens are still the source of all authority, legal authority in our society, just as God is the source of all that is good and right. It is up to you as a citizen and as a parishioner, as a parent, as a person of conscience, to get out there and fix the system. And I want to tell you how much I appreciate all the thousands of people who signed up with us, and all the hundreds of volunteers that have given us their name thus far. This assures that we'll have a long, early, and energetic beginning and ultimate success in gathering these signatures. Thanks again for being here today. And I'm going to turn this back over to Steve Smith. Thank you, buddy.
Thank you, Michael. I'd like to remind our people here a couple of things. If you're going to get involved, you will need to acquire a few things. If you've been to any of the events, for example, the Recall Newsom signature gathering locations, you'll notice they have a few things. They have a table. The table's 6 foot wide. They have a pop-up tent. They have, 2 to 4 folding chairs. They have some clipboards and they have some pens. And these are the things that we will not likely be able to supply you because it's materials you'll be able to keep and use in the future. So I would suggest right now, if you really want to make this thing happen, start acquiring some of these things. Work with your team leader if you have that, or a county chair, and look out and price them. You can get tents for around $100. You can get tables for around $50. The other stuff's pretty small. We'll have some signage and posters and things that you can put up, but we're looking for a 10 wide pop-up tent. We're looking for a 6 foot wide table, and there'll be more to come, but start looking at that now. Second, look around your own neighborhood. Figure out where you would like to be, where you're comfortable. Is there a street corner you can set up that table and you can call people over and collect signatures? Remember, sidewalks are public spaces. If it's a shopping center and there's more than 4 stores, that parking lot is considered a public space. Don't do it without getting people's permission. Now, we have one person coming up now and his wife who is with him, who have probably done more signature collecting behind tables than anyone in our groups combined, maybe with the exception of Mr. Stephen Frank. I know he's been fighting these battles for a long, long time, but I only refer to them one way whenever I answer the phone. The fabulous Hauser family, and if Doug would unmute himself, he'll be able to speak to you. So I introduce to you Mr. Doug Hauser.
Wow. Terrific. Thank you, Steve. Thank you, Mike. That was those tremendous words. And I'm going to accentuate a slightly different point. Again, your point about just pick a spot. Your spot could be a Walmart or a Ralph's or a street corner or a farmer's market or your church, synagogue, temple. Even you're going door to door with your neighbors. It doesn't matter. My first point is that anybody who is involved with this will find out not only that this is an easy pitch to make, but it's incredibly fun. You are not going to get in arguments with people. You are going to be explaining an idea to people, and they are going to go, wow, that is a great idea. That is by far the number one response. It's closely followed by, why didn't somebody think of that 20 years ago? And where do I sign? And I'm talking about everybody. Janice and I have pitched this idea to Republicans, Democrats, independents, libertarians, non-political people. We've talked to blacks, whites, Hispanics, Asian Americans, people I don't even know what they are. We've talked to poor people, rich people, and everything in between. And virtually every single one of them, I am not exaggerating when I say in 2 years of talking about this, I can count on one hand the number of people who had some thought other than this. And usually the thought other than this is, you do realize the teachers union is not going to like this idea. That's sort of the number one objection. We say, yep, we know that. They have 350,000 teachers. We are going to have 40 million or 20 million parents and grandparents. Let's see who's going to win this argument between all the parents and grandparents and the teachers of the teachers union. So I want to reiterate that you will meet terrific people. You're going to be talking to families. This is a very fun, enjoyable thing to do. It is not like selling knives or aluminum siding door to door. So I want to talk about that. Now, let me get to how I approach what I call the pitch, the spiel, okay? I usually start with some comment like, or question like, we approach a family or something, and I say something like, how would you like to hear a plan that will improve education for every child in this state and not cost the taxpayers one extra penny? And that's the first time that people's eyebrows go up and they go, okay, so let's hear how that is. Well, okay, prove it to me. Occasionally you get the answer, well, I don't have kids. And Janice came up with the perfect comeback for that, which is, these are all our kids. This is the future of our country at stake. These children in the inner cities or in the rural areas, These are the children of our country. These are all our kids. This matters. And virtually every single person agrees with that. Okay? Most people are good people and they want to do what's right. The second point is you do not have to convince anybody of anything. All you have to do is explain this plan to them. Steve and Mike's 4 points. And when you explain those points to them, people go, that is a great idea. So I start with some numbers. You sort of have to memorize these numbers, but they're not hard and people don't have to have them stick in their mind, but the magnitude of them shocks people. So I start off with the state of California currently spends almost $90 billion per year on K through 12 education. That's billion with a B. This usually is the second time that people's eyebrows go up and they go, whoa, I had no idea. If you actually ask people, how much do you think the state of California spends on K through 12 education? Because if you have a really engaged person, you might ask it that way. And they think of the biggest number they could think of. And the biggest number most people could think of is $100 million. That's the usual answer I get when I ask that, $100 million. And I say, well, it's about 1,000 times more than that. It's $90 billion, okay? And like I say, they're totally shocked. Then you go on to the next number, which is this money is spread among 6 to 6.5 million school kids. And if you do the division, that comes to almost $14,000 per child per year. And again, people are shocked. They go, wow, wow. They know how much money that is. And you explain, that's not all the money that's spent. We're only going after the Prop 98 funds. Continue the explanation. What our plan allows is any parent who wishes to can create an education savings account in their child's name, and it's shielded from any other government seizures that they might do. And they can get that money put in there every year, and they can only expend that money on education, on sending their child to an accredited, I always accentuate the word accredited, school of their choice, be it charter, private, parochial, or church school, or even if they like the government-run schools. Occasionally people say, government-run school, don't you mean the public school? And our answer is, well, the last year has shown us that the public has very little, if any, input or control in what's going on in the schools. So they are government-run schools. And almost everybody will agree with that. So they go, that sounds like a great idea. $14,000, that's plenty to send. Most people know that's plenty to send your kid to private school. This puts private school within the reach of every parent in California, no matter how poor they are. They can now send their kid to a private school of their choice. And that usually sells them right there. Then while they're signing, I say, the real beauty of the idea is this, and that is that any money they save, unlike a voucher, with a voucher, if you don't use it, you lose it. This is a savings account. Whatever money the parent saves, does not spend, remains in the account, accumulates over the years, and now people usually anticipate it. They're already realizing, wow, wait a second. And you say that money becomes their college fund or is available for any accredited vocational training, and that benefit stays available to them until they're 30. And now you've sold everybody. They're going, what a concept. Now I can send my kids or my grandkids to private school and have a college fund for them without expending any money. I don't have to save out of my paycheck. They know it. They realize it right away. And you could add a couple of facts, like I believe the number is more than 75% of all the private schools in California are under that $14,000 a year amount. So it is actually affordable. We know that it already is affordable. And so that's a point I make. You've got their signature now. You've got them signing. But we also want to accentuate that we want to not only get signatures, we want to recruit more volunteers. So I tell them, the people who are doing this, the California School Choice Foundation is an entirely volunteer organization. No one is drawing a paycheck. We started with 15 people doing this, and we've recruited now hundreds of more people. Maybe by the time this is going, I'll be saying we've recruited thousands of people. but we need volunteers. And volunteering is very, very easy for you to do. You can tell me right now, and I will put your name down. And I always have an extra sheet with me besides the pre-petition or the petition. I have an extra sheet with me that is for people who want to volunteer. Or on the pre-petition, when they sign it, if they say, yeah, I'd like to volunteer, I'd like to help, I write in right next to their name, I write in a V for volunteer, or they want to volunteer. And I tell them volunteering can be very easy. It can be phone banking. It can be being behind a table like this. It could mean having a coffee clutch at your house and just invite all your neighbors to come over to your house for coffee and cake and hear about school choice. And everybody knows school choice is a hot topic. It's being talked about everywhere, but we are the ones with the specific proposal. That's basically my pitch. There's a couple of other points that I will make to people. I'll say, of course, or sometimes they ask. Sometimes they'll ask, but wait a second, if the government is putting in the money, doesn't the government get to control what's happening in the curriculum? And I say, that's usually the case. But of course, we've thought of that. And within our initiative are specific clauses that protect the private schools that say things something like, the state shall impose no curriculum requirements. The state shall impose no health and safety requirements. The state shall impose no hiring and firing or disciplinary policies beyond what is required for accreditation. I reiterate that the school is required to be accredited. People cannot just get 5 of them together and say, we're a school and we're going to do this. So that reassures people that the money is being well spent. But I reiterate that our entire purpose is to create true choice for the parents. Just a little aside, I was recently at an event that was an anti-CRT, an anti-critical race theory event. And a radio lady came by. We had a booth there. We're collecting signatures. And a radio lady came by and said, so school choice, you're against critical race theory, I gather. And she stuck the microphone in front of me. And I had my answer ready. I said, well, as a matter of fact, we're not against anything. We are for the parents making the choice as to what's the best educational option for their children. If parents wish to send their child to an accredited school that teaches critical race theory, they can. If they wish to send their child to an accredited school that is LGBTQ friendly, they can. But on the other hand, if a parent doesn't want that to be part of their children's curriculum, they should have that equal right. And they could send their child to an accredited school that does not teach that. So we do not take any stand on curriculum at all. We'll let the parents decide, and we trust the parents to make the best decisions for their children. And this radio lady was stunned. She didn't know what to say. She went, thank you. That's really good. Okay, bye. You know, she was ready to attack us. How do you know critical race theory is bad? Blah, 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 blah. And my answer completely nonplussed her. And so that is our position. We let everybody form as many schools as they want, and the parents will choose. Another point I make to people is that the parents' contract with the school is for 1 year at a time. So if you're not happy when you send your child to first grade, if they come home and they say, oh, I'm not really learning anything, the teacher's not doing this, or they're showing us movies, or they're teaching who knows what, and you're not happy, the next year you can send your child to a different school. So the parent becomes the customer who must be satisfied. And most people love that idea. They love the idea of competition. Then I explain, to get this on the ballot, we're going to need 1 million verified signatures. Now, Mike said we need to collect 1.5 million. I'm a little more pessimistic than him. I'm thinking we want to collect 2 million signatures in order to get 1 million verified. I believe that the teachers union and their minions in Sacramento are going to see this as a death knell for their monopoly, and they're going to fight tooth and nail. They're going to go over this line by line, signature by signature, and try to eliminate as many people as they can. And they, you know, Gavin Newsom, they feel like they could throw Gavin Newsom out and, you know, they'll get somebody else. But this is going to be much more of a death struggle. We're going to come to grips with them. So I think we want to get 2 million signatures. So that's one of the things I reiterate. I'll hand out literature. Even if the person has signed the petition, okay, and said they're going to volunteer, I hand them some of our literature. I point out our website at the bottom of the literature, www.californiaschoolchoice.org, and I say, please go to the website, get 5 of your friends to go to the website, And they can sign this pre-petition online. Now, they won't be able to sign the official petition online, but they can sign the pre-petition online, and you can sign up to volunteer or donate. And I say, again, it's very easy to volunteer. They've got a list of 20 different ways you can volunteer, and some of them you can do right from your house, and some of them you can do right in your neighborhood, and some of them require more energy if you're into it. So that's basically my pitch. That's how I do it. Like I say, you will find it is fun. People scratch their chins and just go, terrific idea. I am all for this. What an idea. And let me say that in all our experience of doing this, that includes a lot of teachers. A lot of teachers and people who have worked in the public education system listen to this idea and they go, that's a really good idea. Now, let me say, I've got a few more of verbal tricks, sort of rhetorical flourishes that make this thing clear to people, easy to digest. If a person is a little bit hesitant, they're thinking about it, or you just want to fill an empty space, I have two fun analogies that I use. One is what I call the restaurant analogy. And the restaurant analogy is, imagine you're going to go to your favorite restaurant across town, and somebody asks you, why do you go to that restaurant? And you say, well, the food is fantastic, and the prices are pretty reasonable, and the service is really good. It's my favorite restaurant, so that's why I like to go there. And now the government passes a law that says, no, you have to go to the restaurant that is on your block because it's your local restaurant. You have to go there. Everybody would consider that to be incredibly outrageous. That would be such an infringement on your freedom. It would be unbelievable. Well, education is approximately 1 million times more important than what restaurant you go to on any given night. So why should people who happen to be poor be stuck in a school in a poor neighborhood? That's ridiculous. It's like saying they have to go to the restaurant in their neighborhood. No. We're going to give them the choice to go to any restaurant they want. They're going to give them the choice to go their kids to any school that they can qualify and get their kids into. This is going to give them that option. Now, the other question is, people say, but won't there be like a shortage of schools? If a lot of people pull their kids out, there'll be a shortage. And I use the coffee shop analogy. I say, imagine that the government gave every person, or every adult at least, $10 every day, but you could only spend it on coffee. Think how many coffee shops there would be. You'd have every other business would be a coffee shop to cash in on that money. Well, now imagine that the government is giving everybody $14,000 a year to send your kid to private schools. There will be what Howard Cosell would call a veritable plethora of private schools springing up, seeking accreditation, advertising on TV to try to cash in on that money and provide that service. There'll be plenty of people who will say, I can give a much better education than the public schools can, and I can make a lot of money doing it. There will be schools created by retired scientists who will say, we'll create a science academy. Of course, we'd have to teach English and history and civics, but we'll specialize in science for kids who love science. There'll be other schools that will be art institutes, where if your child loves art, they will, send your kid to our school. By the time they're in 4th and 5th grade, they will be doing sculpture. They'll be working in oils. They'll be doing this. And of course, we have to teach science and math and reading, because math helps everybody at everything. I can say that as a mathematician, but it makes you better at everything. But there will be schools for special needs kids. There will be schools for kids who want to be entrepreneurs. There will be schools that may say, we're a very disciplined approach. We learn everything before we go to the next step, then the next step, then the next step. And there may be other schools that say, we believe in a freewheeling. Let the child explore. Let the child read whatever books they like. Do they like mysteries? They can read mysteries. If they like romance, they can read romance. As long as the child keeps reading and keeps learning arithmetic, we will let them proceed their own pace. And the parents will decide what is best for their child. With all even the good intentions in the world, the government-run schools cannot possibly do that. They cannot fulfill that need. The teacher in charge of the classroom of 30 kids has to deal with 30 kids of all different shapes, sizes, interests, and they have to do it a certain rigid way from classroom to classroom to classroom. It's all the same. And the parent, as we know, has no input. So this is a couple of ways that I explain and make it clear. Another thing is, sometimes people say, but what about the teachers? Won't the jobs will dry up? And they're not really thinking. Of course, the answer is the kids are not drying up. The kids are not disappearing. There's just as many kids needing teachers as there were before. And so you're still going to need teachers. good teachers, like good nurses, will always be in demand. No question about it. People want good teachers for their kids. And now you will have, instead of just the government-run school system, you'll have private schools and charter schools competing for that teacher's services. If that guy's a really good science teacher, or that lady is a really good economics or history teacher, they are going to find multiple job opportunities. Kids coming out of teaching college will be encouraged, get 10 of your friends together and start your own school. 2 of you to teach science, 2 of you to teach history, 2 of you to teach math, get what you need, like a college bowl team, and get accredited and start your own school and compete with these guys. Can't you do a better job? And there will be a lot of people who can do it. There'll be, as you all hopefully know, there are lessons in how to enter the data in the computer. If we're talking about the pre-petitions and people who want to volunteer, how to enter it into our website. Just collecting the official wet signatures when that comes out. As Mike said, choose a place, whether it's the Walmart or the Ralph's or any other great location. We've loved the farmers markets, has been a tremendous source for us. Any place where there's an accumulation of people, especially, foot traffic, it's just ideal. And that's basically all I have to say.
Thank you very much, Doug. By the way, Doug's other job is the Energizer Bunny. If I'm sure you've seen him on TV many years. And so he has 2 costumes now. One is the Energizer Bunny, and the other is the T-shirt he's wearing. That he has a wardrobe now, and he has one for every day of the week. That's Doug Howard. Thank you so much. I will answer one question that came through, and that had to do with charter schools. Charter schools are financially public schools and operate under their jurisdiction, even though they're managed separately. So their funding is there, but we would expect to see charter schools transition into private schools very, very soon after this passes. With that, for a completely different perspective, our very, very beloved Ms. Ashley. Ms. Ashley.
So we're just going to start talking about this, and we'll have questions at the end. And like I said, I like to paint a picture with facts, so we'll start here. This is a story I'm going to give you about history and about hope, and the opportunity for access to a quality education that should be available to every child. We need to ask ourselves, do Black minds really matter? Now, Africans were brought here several centuries ago, and they risked their life, limbs, and endured torture, murder, rape, and lynchings learning how to read. But guess what? They learned how to read anyway. They knew education was going to be the key to succeeding in this new world. Blacks not only survived, but they thrived. Our school facilities were substandard, for our access to quality education from teachers that lived and worked in our community was unparalleled. With rapid systemic racism that took place even when I was growing up, Blacks were scientists, mathematicians, inventors in this new world. From 1845 to 1980, Blacks invented over 500 of the modern conveniences that we now enjoy. If you saw the movies Hidden Figures, what a lot of people did, that was a true story. The accomplishments of Black women in developing the NASA program was finally brought to life. Kathleen Johnson, one of NASA's human computers, was instrumental in sending a man to space with a chalkboard and a piece of chalk, no computer and no calculator. Gladys West worked as a U.S. Navy base in Virginia back in the 1950s and 60s, and she played a pivotal role in creating a popular form of technology that now is incorporated in cell phones, cars, military, auto industries, and social media. For 42 years, she worked with a team of engineers that developed a geographical positioning system you now know as GPS, which a lot of you use, which was changed the lives for everyone forever. There is not a segment of this global society, military, auto, cell phone industry, social media, parents, NASA, etc., that does not utilize a global positioning system. A Black woman with a team of engineers invented that. Before the 1960s, 85 to 90% of Black children were born to 2-family households. Many were God-centered marriages. The family, the church, and the school all worked together and were the cornerstones of the Black community. There was a failed socialism system that took place in the Black community, which took us from reliance on God and our nuclear families to reliance on the government. which has replaced the fathers and decimated our family structure. Fast forward 60 years. Today, 75 to 85% of Black children are born to single moms, from the 80 to 90% that we have two-parent families. The breakdown of the family structure has collapsed our education system, which was once second to none. And my focus, why is that on Black boys in California? Because they're one of the most educationally disadvantaged groups in government of these government-run schools. And let me tell you some of the devastating facts. And this should be unacceptable to everyone. 80 to 90% of Black boys in California don't meet the reading, writing, and English standards in California. A large percent of these kids will end up on welfare, homeless, jail, or in graveyard. When they graduate, they're not even at a fourth grade level. And we know if you cannot read and write, you cannot take advantage of any of these opportunities. 60% of juvenile delinquents and 80% of adult inmates are illiterate. 48% of Black boys do not even finish high school. California Black students are twice as likely as white students to be identified with learning disabilities and more likely to be identified for special education in general. So what they do, they take these kids, we can't deal with them, they stick them in a corner, and that's where they stay for 12 years. The California school system ranks 47 out of 50 states for quality education attainment, despite California teachers being some of the highest paid in the nation. Now, reading, writing, arithmetic, science, history, and vocational training has been replaced with sex ed or how-to courses. Now, you know, when we were growing up, some 50 years ago when I was in the elementary school, we had health training courses, even going on to junior high school. And what it was, they took the boys, they sent them to one class, and the girl was sent to one class. And we learned about biology outside of each other's sexes and decided what was going on. We did that for about a week, and then we got together. But it wasn't a how-to sex ed class. It was self-education classes. There was no critical race theory, but now it's been replaced. Our children replace education, our children without God. And once a cornerstone of our society has been taken out of education. I call this now the care system, where condoms have replaced chemistry, anal sex communication has replaced arithmetic, right to abortion has replaced reading and writing, education, sex, how to replace English, and sex education has replaced the basic education of our kids. Martin Luther King had a quote, the function of education is to teach one to think intensely and to think critically. Intelligence plus character is a goal of true education. Now you see from the pictures here, as Black people, when I grew up too, and I grew up several years in the segregated South, what we had to put up with. Now we went to school on military base, my dad, and we were all kind of nationalities. When we got ready to go to school, a big raggedy yellow bus came, picked us up, all the Black kids. We went across a big river. We went through town and went through over railroad tracks to get to the schools that we were supposed to go to. Now, I don't know where the white kids went to, but I'm sure there were well-appointed schools in our neighborhood. Now, that was just in the 50s and 60s we had to deal with. But guess what? Black people still knowing all that we had to put up with, education was going to be the key. And we put in that struggle at a time with all the systemic racism that we had to deal with in the 50s and 60s and before. Now, if we look at our educational purpose and plan, where God, the family, church, and schools all used to work together, okay? And that has completely broken down, and the family is the cornerstone, and God is the cornerstone of a society. Once those things break down, so goes society. But Frederick Douglass said, it is easier to build strong children than repair broken men. Malcolm X said, education is a passport to the future. Tomorrow belongs to those who prepare for today. And Martin Luther King said, the function of education is to teach one to think intensely and to think critically. Intelligence plus character is a goal of true education. It is time now for parents to take their power back. 50 years ago, parents relinquished the control of our children to the government. It is time for parents to take their power back and to take control and remember that the government and the school district, they work for us, we don't work for them. It's time for you to get out of your silos, get involved in the lives of these children. I know many of you are tired, but you have been planning here in this season for this reason. And you're not finished till God says you're finished. Hosea 4:6 says, my people destroyed for lack of knowledge. The lack of educational opportunities is a civil rights issue of this time, not racism. Aaron Duncan said, I believe that education is a civil rights issue of our generation. And if you care about promoting opportunity and reducing inequality, the classroom is a place to start. Great teaching is about so much more than education. It's a daily fight for social justice. Now I'm going to play this brief video here about where Black people once stood 50 years ago and where they stand now. So when you look at the questions and go through this, it's going to really put a spotlight on where we are now as Black families.
Line up, everybody line up. We're about to race. Everybody line up. Shoulder to shoulder. Take off your backpacks. Basketball, line up. We're about to race. And we are racing for a $100 bill. The winner of this race will take this. A $100 bill. Before I say go, I'm going to make a couple statements. If those statements apply to you, I want you to take 2 steps forward. If those statements don't apply to you, I want you to stay right where you're at. Take 2 steps forward if both of your parents are still married. Take 2 steps forward if you grew up with a father figure in the home. Take 2 steps forward if you had access to a private education. Take 2 steps forward if you had access to a free tutor growing up. Take 2 steps forward if you've never had to worry about your cell phone being shut off. Take 2 steps forward if you've never had to help mom or dad with the bills. Take 2 steps forward if it wasn't because of your athletic ability, you don't have to pay for college. Where your next meal is going to come from. I want you guys up here in the front just to turn around and look. Every statement I've made has nothing to do with anything any of you have done. Has nothing to do with decisions you've made. Everything I've said has nothing to do with what you've done. We all know these people up here have a better opportunity to win this $100. Does that mean these people back here can't race? No. We would be foolish to not realize we've been given more opportunity. We don't want to recognize that we've been given a head start. But the reality is we have. Now, there's no excuse. They still got to run their race. You still got to run your race. But whoever wins this $100, I think it'd be extremely foolish of you not to utilize that and learn more about somebody else's story. Because the reality is, if this was a fair race and everybody was back on that line, I guarantee you some of these Black dudes would smoke all of you. And it's only because you have this big of a head start that you're possibly going to win this race called life. That is a picture of life, ladies and gentlemen. Nothing you've done has put you in the lead that you're in right now. When I say go, on your mark, get set, go.
So with that being said, he started talking about opportunities. So when I was growing up in the 1950s and 60s, and before that, both parents still married, check. Grew up with the father figures in the home, check. Access to private education, check, because your teachers were in your community, your aunts, your uncles, and people lived there, whatever, and they tutored and they had private education, okay? Access to free tutoring, yes. People were very intelligent with the pilots and teachers and lawyers and things in our communities, whatever, so you were very well tutored in our community. There was not people that were running around doing anything. It was not acceptable. Never had to worry. They didn't have cell phones in our areas, but if were, you didn't have to worry about billing stuff. Your parents took care of that. They went to work to make sure you could be educated. Never had to help mom for mom and dad bills. No, your parents took care of that. Okay? You didn't have to worry. You went to college because you were smart. There were people that were athletes and they went to college, but the majority of people went because they had the intellect to go. Okay? Didn't have to worry where your next meal was coming from because mama, big mama, sister girl, auntie, somebody cooked and make sure your welfare. This is the difference. We're in the back of the line in 2021. In 1960, 60 years ago, Black kids would have been in the front of the line. So thank you very much for your assistance today and for letting me have this talk, whatever. I'm hoping that, you know, we answer the question you have. The main thing we need to get involved, though, that we can help a lot of these kiddies. And my main focus is going to be in the inner cities. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Miss Ashley, for your moving and informative presentation. One of the advantages that we've had with school choice over the last year and a half is because of the COVID, we've learned a whole lot about what's happening in the schools. We learned a whole lot what is happening in different communities in our society, and people now know. They also now know that the best answer is going to be school choice. And many people are afraid to go out and do work and collect signatures because they're afraid. They're afraid that they're going to be asked questions they can't answer. They're afraid of perhaps being attacked. It's almost endless. But the advantage that we have today is incredible. The best way to answer an objection, and this is just a general rule of thumb, is called feel, felt, found. You basically say, I understand how you feel. You know, I felt the same way, but after I looked and learned, in this case, about what schools are happening in our school system, I have found that they're failing. We don't need all the details. What's going on is terrible. It's disgusting. The performance is awful across the board. Our public schools have been failing our students, and it's our responsibility to give their parents an opportunity for their kids to succeed, and school choice is designed to be able to do just that. Before we turn it over for questions, I'm going to return the program back to our president, Michael Alexander.
Very good. Thank you, Stephen. You know, I have the pleasure, the opportunity to go around the state, a little bit of television here and there, a lot of radio, a lot of interviews with reporters, and it is astonishing how programmed the questions and the objections are. You know, isn't this going to hurt the schools? Won't this affect funding? Miss Ashley's presentation here brought home the painful reality of what's actually happening to children in poor and disadvantaged communities. It affects disproportionately those children. It hits the Black kids, hits the Latino kids, but actually it's hitting all children at one level or the other, and it's making it impossible for us to build the kind of future together that we have. And it brings me very quickly to a high boil, to a rage about what these people have failed to do in these schools when they spend over $20,000. Going back to the wonderful presentation that Doug Hauser made, here's what the reality is. They start talking to you about your program that we propose to fix here, and let's focus on the reality. $20,000 minimum per student spending in California. That means if you take your average class of 25 children, you've got $500,000 going into that classroom. You take 50 kids, you got $1 million. You're telling me that for $1 million, you can't bring 50 Black kids, 50 Latino kids, 50 anybody up to speed? And the excuses that they offer ought to land them in jail for even daring to say this kind of thing. It is outrageous. And yes, it is, as Miss Ashley says, the civil rights movement of the century and of our new century here. And now we must meet the promises of the last civil rights revolution that we had. We have to cash that check. We don't have to raise taxes to do it. We just need to give these children opportunities outside, and the parents opportunities outside to educate their children, free of economic coercion, free of cultural coercion, and leave parents free to educate their children and inform them morally, intellectually, and religiously as they see fit. We have complete and total confidence in the average American, and the average parents. Even many of these parents come from other countries. I'll put my trust in them. I'll build America and the California of the future with them before I'll have any trust at all in the teacher unions or the Berkeley faculty. So I think we can agree that we can make progress in this state. I'd like to open it up to some questions.
I have a question.
Hi.
Hi, I'm Delina Ortiz, invited by Miss Ashley. We both attend. Yeah, we both attend the San Bernardino Women's Republican Federation. So I have a question, and I'd like to also give you guys kudos. So I'm going to do the kudos thing before. So I think this is a great concept because I'm 22 years old. I do a lot of political stuff, real estate, and etc. And I always think about what it's going to be like in, let's say, 10 years when I'm ready to have children, how bad the public schools are going to be. And it's very interesting to see that we have people who are working on these things saying, hey, we know that it's going to be like this in the future. Let's fix that, right? And not only that, like I do a lot of traveling, and I've seen in places where African Americans, Latinos, minorities, for lack of a better word, are so disadvantaged, and the lack of education shows in the culture and etc. And it's very sad. And so I can't help but wonder, like, the government is purposely keeping people uneducated so that they don't know what is out there, the opportunities that they have, and etc. So I advocate this bill thoroughly, especially because for the future generations, the ones who are going to be taking care of us when we get older, be educated. And then my question being, so how does that work for orphans, or if kids have parents and let's say, God forbid, they pass away, who will be the next of kin to decide the rest of their education and the funds?
Very quickly, it'll be the guardian. All right. So there's no such thing as a child without either a parent or a legal guardian. So that guardian will make the choice, and that's hardwired into the act.
Okay, cool. All right. Well, thank you guys for your.
Perfect. Thank you. And by the way, what church are you going to be at on Super Sunday?
Harvest. Great Glory Harvest. Yep, I love that church. I've been going there.
Great.
Yeah.
Hi there, folks. I wanted to thank Sherry for all of that great information. I'm like ready to cry about what we've done to our. I wanted to thank Sherry also because I am so ashamed of what we as citizens of this great United States have done with our children for the last 50 to 60. I think it's even more than that. I think we gave up our children 100 years ago to public school system. And I wanted to thank her for all of that great information and stats. And also I want to thank you, Michael. And I wanted to tell you, I'm out here in the Coachella Valley, and I'm working through the East Valley Republican Women's Federation. And I'm working with Wendy Beyer. And we're right now calling and canvassing private schools and churches and getting them on board for when we want to have them set up and do events in those venues. So that's what I'm doing right now. And this is great information that I'm getting so that I can, when I call these people, I can, be more explanatory about the whole program. One thing I wanted to ask you about is I'd like to personally go out with a table, for 4th of July at my civic park here. But what I need is marketing material. I need signs. I need, I don't want to make up my own. I want it to be within the emblematic of the foundation's marketing program. So Is that happening? That we're going to have more of these little, I have these, but are we going to have like big signs that we can hang on the fold up tables and fold up pop up? And on our
Let me answer. First of all, I'm going to have Steve answer that one, but I'm going to make an important point. We are a nonpartisan movement. We find tremendous energy in the Republican Party and among conservatives for it, and it's a Republican part of the Republican platform, but school choice is not a Republican idea.
right.
It belongs to us all, and we have wonderful Democrats throughout our organization. I talked with one crazy, on fire Latina woman up there, Debbie Martinez, up there near Turlock and Modesto, and that woman is a card-carrying Democrat, and she is a card-carrying school choicer. We're proud to work with everybody here. I just want to remind you. On the material, Steve, could you answer that question, please? You've
Absolutely.
been uniquely engaged with that project.
The materials have been designed. We're now looking at the best way to have them made or for you to get them. There is a banner with grommets that will either attach to the top of a canopy or to a table as a table runner. It is 6 feet by 2 feet. It's available in both English and Spanish. We also have the kind of what you would call it as a yard sign that you typically see when there's booth like this that says school choice and has an arrow, and you can flip it one way and it's pointing one way, flip it over, it's pointing the other way to direct people to that. We also have a simpler banner we'll have available, which is 5 feet by 3 feet. We have new flyers that we're coming out with, and everything will be available in Spanish and English.
Oh, great.
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 Next question.
Laurel?
Before I get off, Michael, I'm sorry. I wanted to let you know that I am absolutely letting people know that I talked to, that this is a completely nonpartisan foundation. Yeah.
I know. We have a lot of people brand new, and I just wanted to make that point.
Oh, got you.
Thank you so much, dear. Next question.
Laurel Acosta?
Yes, hello, everybody. Thank you for all your hard work. I appreciate the knowledge of what you're doing, and I'm all on board about it. I went to a Women's Republican VIP meeting this week. That it was Republican, but like you say, I understand it's nonpartisan, and that's great because, you know, work across the board is super. The first thing I want to say is Todd Madison has some excellent posters that he's made up, and I've used them for my tables. He can make them be 17 by 11. They can be the little slips that people can use, the little QR code, and I've been using that with the farmers market, and that really works well. In addition to that, as I was saying, I went to this meeting, and I wanted to give people another sort of positive way to look at places that people can go, because they get so depressed when they're like, well, where can I go for these, you know, if I take my kids out of school. I found this place called publicschoolexit.com, publicschoolexit.com. And it shows you ways of getting these teachers, you know, in Poway. I live down here in San Diego, and in the San Diego area, and we had two papers, our paper had two articles, one about a week apart from the other. The first one had 38 teachers that are retiring from a Poway Unified School District. The next paper had 22 or 28 more from just this district. And it makes me scratch my head and say, well, yeah, okay, it was COVID. They got paid for this year, and maybe going back, they're just done with it. But it made me also think maybe they don't want to teach the CRT curriculum. They don't want to teach the curriculum that's being forced on them by the socialist push that's kind of coming through the schools. And when I was hearing about this, publicschoolexit.com shows you 3 ways of helping to either homeschool your kids at home, how to get together with churches in your area and hire these teachers, or there was a third way. But I just thought I'd share that just so that you have something else to like direct people as to how they might train their kids otherwise. And they're great teachers. Maybe they just don't want to teach it the way that they're forcing them to do in the public socialist system. Thank you.
Doug Hauser here. Let me jump in. I totally concur with that. I believe 90% of teachers or more want to teach things they love. Science teachers love science, and that's what they want to teach. Art teachers love art, and that's what they want to teach. English teachers love literature, and that's what they want to teach. I absolutely believe that. And, you know, that's why people go into teaching. I don't believe anybody goes into teaching wanting to teach sex ed or critical race theory. You know, it's absurd on its face. They want to teach the things that they loved. Maybe he wasn't good enough to be Leonardo da Vinci, but he loves it and he wants to teach it. And so I totally concur with that. And I would not be surprised if all those teachers that you're talking about, so sad, are retiring because they don't want to deal with that nasty curriculum. This will give them the opportunity. Those 50 teachers could get together and start their own school and make a huge amount of money and do a much better job than the government-run schools are doing.
Right. And unfortunately, the parents would have to pay for it this coming up year. But I am really pushing hard to have people look at pulling their kids from the school this year, this fall coming up, even if they have to pay for it this year while they're signing our petitions, and hopefully we're going to get that flipped. And then they won't have to pay for it anymore. It'll go with the child and follow them where they go, and give those public schools some competition.
Yep.
Many thanks. Next question, please.
Thank you for all what you do. My name is Michi Rufera, and I was invited by Miss Catherine Hart from Mid-Peninsula Republican Women. I am a representative of No Left Turn in Education, California chapter, and also Parents Union, or California Policy Center. So we have about a few thousand members in California, and but also there is quite a bit for the No Left Turn, because we are a national organization, about 30,000 spread in 30 states. Both organizations are non-partisan parent organization. We support school choice and very concerned on the new Assembly Bill 101 that box students as privileged, underprivileged, oppressed, and oppressors. This will bring the students relive the dark past in American history, and we as parents should save our children. Otherwise, we will lose the whole future generation in this country. I think the school choice is one of the alternative options. We would like to support this effort for school choice and wonder how our members can help collect the signatures. On top of that, I just want to share some information. I'm also starting an organization to help children to learn and to think critically and to act civilly. So you can check my website at fits2021.com, and I would like to work and help other organizations who are interested to help save our children, because right now, as you know, in school, they do not teach children how to think, they teach them what to think. So I think that's it. So I wonder how we, as our two organizations, can help to collect more signatures for the school choice. Thank you.
Perfect. Thank you very much. What an inspiration. Now, let me understand this. Your new organization is going to teach critical thinking skills and civility. Is that correct?
Correct. Yes.
Well, great. We'll just send you to Congress back there. You got plenty of people to work with.
Okay. Thank you.
I got to get you going there. Huh? I got to give you a challenge, lady. All right. So, at any rate, how can we work together? First of all, you took the first big step. You told us who you are. I am astonished at how big our state is. And I mean, I've grown up here. I know it. I talk about how big California is all the time. None of us really knows. You start something like this, people are coming out of the woodwork, and you find out just how much they've been doing, how broad their effort is. That's what gives me confidence. And here we're connecting with each other. And then the most critical thing is for the people in your group to tell me what church you're going to be at on Super Sunday. It's really that simple. if we get concrete and specific in our commitments right now, and we know that we're moving from one Sunday to the next, to another place, to a school, and constantly moving forward and never stopping, we'll get there. And just to show you that the appeal works, while we were sitting here, somebody that I know sent me an email, and he says, "Hey, great energizing Zoom meeting today. Thank you. Wanted to let you know that Paul and I are committing to being at Bridgeway Christian Church for Super Sunday in Roseville, California, up near Sacramento." That's the kind of specificity that we need. And we just need to put them up there. And that will encourage your friends and scare your enemies, right? And I don't know which one I like more, right? So we're going to be busy.
Let me also say, she's got 1,000 members. They need to go to the website and click on action page and get their names up there as volunteers, so that if they don't know where to go, they think somebody can direct them. 1,000 people is going to just be so tremendous for us that I want her to encourage all her people to go and register on our website.
Just on a personal side too, we've got to be able to stand up against this critical race theory, what's going on. You got to own the narrative. And you can't run and hide. You got to be bold in your assertions. What they're telling you is not the truth. What they're telling kids is not the truth. That's why I gave you real examples of how were Black people so successful, and how did we thrive so well with all the systemic racism, which we really had when I was growing up, okay? But we had strong families, we owned the narrative, and we had with God. We got to get back to that, take this narrative away from them. So when somebody stands up to talk to you about systemic racism, you let them know. Let me tell you what Ms. Ashley said, and what systemic racism looks like. This ain't it. You calling somebody a different name, or not agreeing with them, is not systemic racism. We got to take this message back, be able to shoot that down, and you can do that by real history. You have the facts on your side. You got to stop running, and you have to be bold in your assertions.
Let me just very briefly comment, Miss Ashley, as always, you're correct on these issues. And I don't think it's too much of an exaggeration to say that the only systemic racism that we have right now will be found in a public school system in California, which continues to keep children in failing schools. And if we measure systemic racism by the disparate and unfair and unequal impact on a certain race, then the California school financing approach and how we operate the system is in fact a racist system measured by its outcome. Next question, please. Dale Deeleman.
Yeah, hey, what about the homeschoolers?
Homeschoolers will be eligible under our program. We have to distinguish now here between the two steps. One aspect is whether you're eligible to get the ESA savings account with the 14 grand a year. And the answer is yes. But for the homeschoolers to spend it, they must affiliate in some fashion with an accredited institution that will be willing to oversee and monitor and handle the payments and reimbursements for expenses. Many homeschoolers are doing that right now through charter schools, and there are other homeschool networks that are accredited that can fulfill that purpose. Homeschoolers, in other words, Dale, will be treated exactly. There's no special regulation of homeschoolers here, and if they don't want to participate, they don't have to. To paraphrase a friend of mine, if you like your current public school, you can keep it, right? And if you like your homeschooling arrangement, taking no money from anybody, you can keep it. Nobody has to do anything different. Did I answer your question, Dale?
Yeah, that took care of it. Thank you very much.
We have kept an average of around 60 to 70 people the entire hour and a half. And that's a measure of how committed people are to it. Many people can't do these Sunday afternoon meetings, but we will record them and put them up online. Right now, our focus will be training We'll have videos up there and everything else. And, we're ready to rock and roll. We have chairman anywhere. And remember, any person can lead here. Just adopt a parish, adopt a congregation, a temple, a school, a zip code. Just be creative. You're Americans. You can do this. I want to thank you all. I'm going to turn it back over to Steve to close it out. Are you there, Steve?
Hey, I'm always here. I just can't see too well these days, but I'm here.
Dave, we got one more person here. Kurt Wheeler has a quick question.
I was wondering if we're going to be sitting on a street corner getting petitions, we really need some kind of ID. In lieu of an ID, if we all had on one of Doug's great T-shirts, kind of like a uniform, that would be good. I had one question to Miss Ashley, if that's possible too.
Yeah, well, let me respond first to the ID. Nobody requires ID for any purpose when it comes to the First Amendment. Okay, you're a citizen with a petition in your hand, and you're entitled to collect. If you want to have a business card printed, send us a note, and we'll give you directions on how to have a business card printed. But if you're worried about being stopped in a neighborhood, let us know. We'll work it out. And you said you had a question for Miss Ashley?
Okay, her presentation was phenomenal, amazing. My question is, why don't Black bureaucrats make an effort to fix some of the problems, specifically 75% of the kids, Black kids being born out of wedlock? Is it the fact that Black bureaucrats or liberal bureaucrats don't intend to fix anything? They just like things broken, or what?
It still all comes down to money and getting paid. There's been over $20 trillion over the last 50 years, they estimated 40 years, that have gone to the inner cities. Why these inner cities still look like hellholes, a lot of them do, and worse in third world countries. We're losing up to 8,000 Black kids every year killing themselves. Why is that acceptable? Why do none of these politicians talk about it? Because they're kind of trapped in this environment that if they're kind of quiet about it, they get paid. They've always used Black people to go against other Black people. It's nothing new today, but it's our job for where we are right now to expose the hypocrisy, who and what they are, and take this man lawn and really see what these people are doing. But it all comes down to money in their campaigns and getting paid to, kind of keep us, under their foot and keep, the voting where it is, so they'll continue to get elected into office. That's why a lot of people are uneducated, don't have the information, but it comes down to money.
Yeah, Kurt, yeah. I want to answer your question in another important way, Kurt, so that you know this. These 350,000 members of the California Teachers Association, and that's not all of them, they're one of the largest of the public employee unions, and every elected person, beginning with Democrats and ending with Republicans, is scared to death of that organization. They're not a teaching organization, they're a precinct operation. Now you just write that down and memorize it unless you understand that the public employees are collectively the body that actually controls California. You will understand nothing. The Democrat Party here in the state is nothing more or less than a wholly owned and operated subsidiary of the public employee unions, not the other way around. And that's why you try to get a conservative or a Republican on a school board or city council, and I've helped to get them there, and they refuse to do anything that will cause those teachers to hit the road with the cops and the firemen and SEIU and everybody else in their precincts. And that's because, and this gets back to Miss Ashley's point, it's not only about their money, it's about the candidates' lack of money. So they bring in the money and then they go out and they hire their own bosses. That's what you're looking at. That's why nothing's changed in the schools. Nothing ever will change in the schools unless we do this ourselves. Okay?
At any rate, I just wanted to say that as we progress through our efforts here with school choice, I mean, the exit organization that says, take your kids out of school now, okay? Now, let's remember that certainly the wealthy have been doing this forever. Their kids are out of our government-run schools. But the kids and middle-class kids, they'll get by. Some parents will take their kids out. But let's remember, it's the kids in the inner city who don't have that option at all. And so maybe when we look at the exit organization, maybe we should turn to them and give some scholarships to kids in the inner city so they can exit these government-run schools now, not wait. They don't have time. These kids are dying right now. That's all.
Nobody's going to let them out. They're not going to let them.
Well, I'm
They're
saying right now, Mike, if we gave scholarships to that exit organization to help kids go to private schools who are in the inner city. That's what I'm saying.
Oh, sure. But that's not outside the scope of what we do. We're going to get people their own money. Okay. You know, I mean, I'd be happy to contribute to it personally.
Yeah, I'm talking about personally. I'm saying that right now we're all working towards school choice.
Right.
That's not going to happen for a couple of years. We may get it passed, but it's not going to be operational here for a while. Meanwhile, children in the inner city are being lost. These are human lives lost. And if we're talking about an exit strategy right now, take your kids out of the public schools. These kids, they don't have the financial wherewithal to get out of those. So their parents don't have it. So I'm saying that maybe we should look towards scholarships individually. I'm not talking about the school choice organization, but maybe we should look towards providing scholarships and helping those kids right now.
Thank you.
May I
finish it up. Let's finish it up with one last question, and then we will adjourn.
Anita?
Rhodes.
Okay, I just want to address Mr. Wheeler's question about why Black leaders don't. And it's for a couple of reasons. We know Blacks have historically been aligned with the Democrat Party. Now that more of us are coming out of that party, we are getting a platform to reach back to our community, to inform them and give them a choice. But I would really like to implore everyone to look at the Black children or all of the disadvantaged children as all of our children, and not say because the Black leaders aren't doing it. Many of them are still in the Democrat Party. If we want to unify this nation and lift those children up so they're not left to the ideology of the Democrat Party, we must look at it that way and support people like Miss Ashley, myself, and the Hausers, anyone that's trying to reach the urban children, to give those kids an opportunity to be educated. We're not relying on the Black leaders. I consider myself a Black leader. Miss Ashley, I consider the Hausers a Black leader, and anyone that cares about those children to speak up and speak out, to give them a choice.
Let me just finish with, I sometimes ask people, can you tell me the race of the person who 20 years from now is going to discover the new energy source that revolutionizes the world economy? Or the person who will finally cure cancer? Can you tell me what race they are? And everybody goes, no, I don't know what race they are. And I go, that's exactly right. That's why it's important that every child be fully educated, because we don't know which of them is the most important one. They're all important. I just want to finish with that thought.
Stephen, take us home.
All right. Thank you, everyone. I know there's many and more questions. I recommend going to our website and go to the comments, and we can perhaps answer them more directly. With that, it's been a great evening. Thank you, Doug. Thank you, Miss Ashley. Thank you, Michael Alexander. And especially thank you, all of our volunteers. Good night, everybody.
Good night. Great meeting.
Take care. God bless. Great job, everybody.
Bye.
Over and out.